Welcome back to the BDGE Dynasty Fantasy Football channel. As the rookie hype has started to die down a little bit, we are going to dive into the actual player pool of Dynasty players, and we haven't done a rankings debate yet. So this video is going to be going through our consensus top 24 to 30 running back rankings for Dynasty, and next video will be the same thing for wide receivers. So if you enjoy this one, make sure that one, you give the thumbs up, and you subscribe to make sure that you see the next one. Also, make sure you're subscribed to both Adam and Andrew's channels, linked down below. You can also find our rankings up on bdge.co for the big dog members only. I don't know how we want to do this. Do we want to talk about the biggest discrepancy players? Do we just want to talk about any interesting players? Do we want to nominate players to yap about? How are we feeling?
We should go down the list as far as, you if you have a player that you're either wanting to agree or disagree with our rankings on, go ahead, Andrew.
I mean, I feel like we could do this very easily because we all have the same top five. Bijan, Breece, Gibbs, Taylor, McCaffrey, in whatever order you want it to be in. That's all the same top five. And then also we all have the same 6, 7, 8, which is Etienne, Achane, and Saquon. So all of those players we all feel are the clear top 8 in whatever order. So we don't really even need to talk about any of those guys.
There aren't there's not a ton of huge differences until we get lower in the 20s. I guess maybe one discussion we could have is why you have Jahmyr Gibbs over Breece Hall. We both have Breece Hall at 2. You have Jahmyr Gibbs at 2. I actually have him down at 4, but
Jahmyr Gibbs, and I was actually I'll follow that up to why you have McCaffrey at 5. But for me, Gibbs actually at 2 is, I wouldn't say that Breece Hall, like range of outcomes, if they both smash, I think you can't tell me the picture is guaranteed to be Breece or guaranteed to be Gibbs finishing better in points per game.
Sure.
But what I do see about Breece Hall is in the risk department, like, knock on wood, I don't want anybody to get hurt. But if it was to happen, Breece Hall's going into year 4 and now is coming off a second possible significant injury. I feel like Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan to me are in that tier of the only running backs you could argue have any type of value insulation realistically relative to the field just because of their youth and the way that they're viewed. That's the reason I have it there. I feel like the situation of Jahmyr Gibbs dropping significantly is less than Breece Hall by a hair.
What did Gibbs end up with, like, statistical wise last year? Like, overall yardage and touchdowns. He scored double-digit touchdowns, right?
He scored, he had a hell of a lot of touchdowns. Actually, let's pull it up. The whole offense scored a bunch. That's why the JMO argument we had.
Porta was at 10. Demon had a bunch. Yeah. Like, what did Gibbs end up with?
I don't have the stats. I have fantasy points per game. Gibbs was 16.1 fantasy points per game. That was 8th overall.
PPR?
Yeah. Breece was 17.6, 6th overall.
So Gibbs finished with 945 on the ground, 5.19 yards per carry, 10 rushing touchdowns. He had 52 catches on 71 targets and only had 1 receiving touchdown, 300 yards on the air.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, that's a phenomenal – as low of a bar as, like, 1,000 rushing yards feels like, it actually feels like it's tougher and tougher to reach now because there are just not a lot of – backfields that give guys enough carries to like get to that mark. So 950 I feel like is really impressive as a rookie season. I guess my only concern is like, I mean, I have no concerns. He's like top 5 fucking dynasty running back for me, but I guess my thing is Gibbs should get more share of the workload, but and I've been on record, like I still think Demon is plenty productive as a player. I still think he's going to get 8 to 10 rushing touchdowns. I don't know, maybe in the passing game Jahmyr Gibbs can get more work. Also, like, listen, like Demont missed some time last year, so a lot of those games that Gibbs had boosted his stats to maybe an abnormal rate that he wouldn't have really been at those ending counting stats. So I guess my thing is like if Gibbs ends up finishing with like 1,300 yards from scrimmage next year and 8 or 9 touchdowns, which is not a huge step up, if any, from last year in that department, like, I don't know, are we still like, oh, Gibbs is number 2 overall?
This is where I'm at in this whole debate with you as well. Is it comes down to me, they're both young. Breece Hall's 23 years old, Jahmyr's 22. Like, the fantasy points per game is pretty much the same. The competition in the backfield is different.
Yeah.
The opportunity is probably different from these two, at least what we expect, unless Gibbs gets a major increase in workload.
Well, I mean, I was just going to say the one thing on that. We're obviously splitting hairs here at the top, frankly, right? Like, we can agree on that part for sure.
Yes. If I was drafting 10 teams, I'd probably have 5 and 5.
The first 6 weeks, though, okay? Weeks 5 and 6, he didn't play. In weeks 1 through 4.
Gibbs didn't play?
Right.
Okay.
Weeks 1 through 4, 27, 48%, 37% snap share. Like, there was a part early on where we were like, what are we doing here? Yeah. And is this going to be the same picture as DeAndre Swift? When Montgomery went down, Gibbs thrived. And that basically put him back into the driver's seat where the draft capital spoke. And I think there's a scenario where to me, Jahmyr Gibbs, although, sure, there's definitely – David Montgomery's not going to go away. I don't think anyone's arguing that.
No.
So I'm not saying Breece Hall doesn't have the backfield more to himself, but I think there's a realistic opportunity for Jahmyr Gibbs in opportunity share to be one of the best, if not top 5 in opportunity still in an offense that's going to score a ton of points. The Jets, I think, should be good, but Aaron Rodgers coming off an Achilles. Like, I don't know that the Jets offense, again, is going to be that much different necessarily than last year. Also, remember how many targets Breece Hall got at the end of the season last year?
Dude, his reception numbers were insane.
They were insane.
That's hard to replicate, too.
All right, with Gibbs, like, okay, my other thing is I don't know if I ever see the opportunity share really getting up to a crazy degree without Montgomery getting hurt. Like, even down the stretch, he, from weeks 10 through 18, so the last 8 weeks when he was, like, insulated as pretty much the guy there,
sure,
he topped 65% of the snaps one time, 63% of the snaps one time. My thing is, like, too, this is one of those conversations where I feel like you can't get too analytical with it.
Sure.
And you have to look at Dan Campbell. Like, Dan Campbell is fucking so obviously wanting to use some type of bruiser back and make sure that they have, like, a tough offense. That's exactly what Demont is. That's exactly what Jamal Williams was the year prior. Like, I think there will always be, even if it's not Demont, there will always be some type of, like, bruising back that they want to use in a lot of different situations, especially on the goal line. And that's what kind of scares me about Gibbs' opportunity share, like, really ever getting to a workhorse place. Because Dan Campbell, I don't think he's ever going to look at Gibbs and be like, yep, like, he's the guy that I want to, like, fucking instill fear into defenses.
Yeah.
I think from that perspective, though, I would actually say, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'll pass it right back to you. I think that, man, the interesting part for me is that I don't think we want Gibbs to be – I don't want my Jahmyr Gibbs to see 80%.
No.
Like, he's not built that way.
Agreed, but then if he doesn't, though, like, how much more of a ceiling could he have on top of what he saw last year?
I think what we saw from Alvin Kamara is Alvin Kamara plus type shit, where he could
super fair counterpoint,
still win leagues for you.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with him.
It's right where I was going. I was going to say I don't think Jahmyr Gibbs is the type of player that needs a massive opportunity share to be super effective for fantasy football teams. And so kind of same thing there. Alvin Kamara is the poster child of that. But if you can do that, that's what Jahmyr Gibbs is. I don't have a strong opinion either way. I obviously have Breece over Gibbs in the rankings, but both of these dudes are phenomenal.
They're all elite options that are worth breaking the principle normally I'll say about running backs. These are the guys I want, but we're splitting hairs if we're arguing about the top. But I'm curious now about Christian McCaffrey for you at 5. I mean, obviously it's not egregious. We're one spot ahead at 4, but why 5? Basically, why Taylor ahead of Gibbs and then why Taylor ahead of CMC is, I guess, the question.
Yeah, I mean, I look at Bijan, Breece, and JT, and I'm just like, we're not that far removed from JT going for over 2,000, 20 touchdowns type of thing, you know, and I think with the way that Shane Steichen is talking over there in Indy, like, that's going to be the A-Rich JT show, I think, especially with the extension. Him being, he's only 25. It's easy to look at Gibbs and Bijan and be like, oh, they're 21, 22. But it's not like JT is like 5 years younger than Christian McCaffrey, you know? So it's like, I look at guys that I think could be the 3-down workhorses in their respective offenses, and those are the guys that I want, that I know have elite talent. And we're not like, I'd almost even say to a degree, we're still, like, waiting to see it from Breece Hall. He's young as fuck, so, like, I'm sure we still will. Like, JT, we've already seen it in multiple seasons where we're like, yeah, he's elite when he's ready to go. And I feel like we're going to recapture that with JT this year.
I mean, listen, I'm not down on JT. I have him in a separate tier, but to the point you're making, I think that people kind of forget, too. Like, people probably don't remember that the amount of snaps Jonathan Taylor and A-Rich took together last year was less than – I think it was like
2.5 games.
It was literally
one game.
No, they only played one game and it was less than a
Did
full
they
game.
even play together?
Yeah, it was the game that A-Rich hurt his shoulder.
JT was out for the first 4 weeks, no?
It was the game that A-Rich hurt
Did he
his
miss
shoulder.
the first 4 weeks?
The game that A-Rich hurt his shoulder. I looked this up. The game that A-Rich hurt his shoulder, he handed it to him, or they were in the backfield for a very minimal amount of time before A-Rich left for the season, actually. I think it was week 5. But yeah, JT did miss 4 weeks because he was on the IR.
A-Rich played all the way to week 5?
He got hurt. He missed a concussion, remember? He had a concussion, and then he had the shoulder.
Okay.
But point is, they played like 5 snaps together. I mean, we never got to see it, was really the point, more so than anything. So Taylor, if A-Rich is healthy and playing and running as that, you know, trying to figure out which one of these guys is running, it could be lethal. I get the argument for JT. To me, it's just
part of me feels like you're able to draft like a 25-year-old Derrick Henry right now in JT.
I've said it all off season, and I've even shown it in the startup draft that I just posted on the channel that people are roasting me for. Jonathan Taylor is my favorite pick in that 3rd round all off season. I will continue to keep drafting Jonathan Taylor because he has elite RB1 upside, and you're getting him cheaper than every other back we've just talked about.
Yeah. That's what that's why I like him there. Is like, in my eyes, he's in that same tier with all the other top guys, but you're getting him at like such a significant discount.
I agree 100%.
The one thing about Taylor, I guess, when I keep him out of the tier, again, I'm probably nitpicking here. Jonathan Taylor actually, like, relative to the other guys, the four, Bijan, Breece. Like, first of all, Breece was easily number one in targets last year at the running back position. Bijan, with outrageous usage from Arthur Smith, was number two. Gibbs, we know the pass catching prowess, CMC as well. Jonathan Taylor, I don't think with A-Rich has the upside in the receiving department.
Not at all. And that's why I was like, I feel like you're getting Derrick Henry at age 25 because JT has that same breakaway ability to rip. If he didn't have like the breakaway speed, the breakaway ability to rip like 70-yard touchdowns, we're having a different conversation here. I'm not looking at him in like the Joe Mixon tier, but like he's closer to that than he is Bijan Robinson at that point. But that's the thing. Like JT, if he rushed for 1,800 yards this year, wouldn't surprise me. If he gave you 140 receiving yards, also wouldn't really surprise me.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised either if he was like flirting with like 12 to 15 touchdowns this year.
100%. And he could make those touchdowns happen insulated outside of whether or not the offense is good, which is such a big upside play because there are years that the Titans aren't good, but Derrick Henry's still getting his 15 because he's scoring from any part of the fucking field. And that's what I see with JT. And maybe we're threading needles there. Maybe like the other guys are safer because they're younger, they're more solidified in what they're doing. Like I don't know, but JT to me is still.
I mean, these guys are all really special. To me, I'm looking more as JT and Barkley in the same tier, where these guys can both hit home runs. Barkley a little older, but probably has more patch catching prowess. But both of them have the rushing quarterback that doesn't really throw a ball a ton to the receiving back. So anyway, that's why I have them in that same tier. But I think to me, definitely there's a big tier after Barkley where I'm starting to wonder at cost, am I wanting to get the
100%
next tier of guys here?
I feel like to just piggyback on that conversation, I feel like I know it sounds minimal from like a normal human standpoint, but that 25-year-old and that 27-year-old difference in that NFL running back is enough to tier break them apart in its own right, in my opinion.
You mean from JT to Saquon?
Yes. Yep. That 2-year difference is enough to just separate them a tier.
To me personally, I was just going to say, to me personally, it's nothing personal to you. I couldn't disagree more just from the standpoint of once I get to the second contract, I'm looking at you in 1 to 2 year windows tops.
That's fair.
I'm expecting that I'm getting production now and really the reality for the running back position is it could die off at any point after these guys.
Saquon's situation to me is a little bit scarier than like what it just presented on paper. I mean, we talk about A-Rich not dumping the ball off to JT. Like Jalen Hurts doesn't really throw to his running backs either. Often, like you want to talk about a player scoring on the goal line. Jalen Hurts is like the greatest of all time, pretty much at this point. I don't know what his touchdown like. Safe floor again. Is Saquon going to run for 2,000 yards? Absolutely fucking not. Like he's just not that runner. I don't think in this point of his career. So no, don't look at me like that. Don't side eye me. I just don't think he is.
You talk about injury stuff, history for Taylor.
I gotta go Penix eyes.
Listen. Saquon,
if there's a single running back that I'm betting.
Rookie year Saquon was able to break away. Rookie year Saquon gets run down every time he breaks away now. Like almost every time. Saquon, and right now, is really not the same player he was when he came in the league.
Wow.
He's still fun and shifty, but realistically, listen, he like doesn't really have that 70-yard touchdown upside anymore to me on a given play.
Interesting.
He gets run down often.
I didn't see him getting run down like that.
If he ran a 40-yard dash right now, it would be significantly slower than what he did coming into the league, I think.
Significantly slower, I would argue.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe like half a tenth of a second, but that's big in the NFL.
I'm not saying he's not.
He'd a whoa.
I'm moving him down. He'd a whoa. There you go. Put Etienne, achane, Kyron, all of them up there. No, if there's a singular running back prospect that I'm willing to bet on aging and not being that, give me the best running back prospect we've ever seen.
I don't know. I don't feel like he's proven you right over the last 3-4 years at all.
What was his situation though?
I'm just saying if he's that good though, like he rises above.
Has he not?
He's been fine.
Okay.
I think there was the
best running back prospect for the record though that we've ever seen and created in a lab is Saquon Barkley.
Sure.
There was probably 2.5 year period there though where a lot of people weren't really excited about Saquon anymore.
Why?
Injury concerns.
There you go. Is he healthy? Any one of these backs can get hurt.
Yeah, they all can.
That's my point.
I think we talked about this on our last episode, but like the difference of a guy like you said, any of these backs getting hurt, the difference of a guy like Gibbs getting hurt and a guy like Saquon getting hurt. Saquon's getting hurt at 27. Gibbs is getting hurt at 22. And that feels like a significant difference.
Sure,
in
but
running back.
If Taylor gets hurt, if either Taylor or Saquon has a significant injury, it's the same type of picture.
I'm just like his rookie year was by far and away his best season as a pro. And
yeah, it was an outrageous season.
Right, but I'm just saying like he just hasn't been that player. He had a good fine year last year, good year the year before, but like 4 of his last 5 years, I would say 3 of his last 4 of his last 5 have been like relatively disappointing for Saquon.
Let's come back to this conversation. Because as a guy from New York, I'm surprised that you're giving him so much shit relative to this. There's a chance that we see how fucking terrible this offense is as a whole and how much he did in a bad situation the last several years.
That's fair. We'll see.
And arguably, like we saw Swift's value kind of come back to life a little bit. I'd argue that there's better situations, but Philly's one of the best situations he could go to for sure.
It was definitely one of the better running back
The downsides
spots.
are obviously that you said Jalen Hurts doesn't throw the ball a ton to receiving backs, and that he could take some of the goal line work.
Yeah.
That being said, he's still my running back 7.
Yeah, I mean, like I'd be shocked if he finished outside of being an RB1 this year, outside of the top 10 probably, because I think the floor is so high. I don't know. Like when you have so many fucking monsters up top of the rankings there, like in order to get in there, like you have to hit your ceiling.
I just feel like, tell me what you think about this. If we look back at the end of this year,
I like how I have him in the same ranking that you do. And we both have him at 6.
It was
Jonathan Taylor.
It was Taylor. It was more Taylor. I was arguing that Taylor and him are similar. But point is, if we look back in a year from now and Saquon Barkley destroys the NFL, I feel like that we should not be shocked.
No, but
I would be a little surprised.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You sleeping on my man's.
If he comes
They
in
doubted him.
and goes nuts this year, like I don't really know how much more we move him up the rankings anyways.
But that's the whole point at the Jonathan Taylor range. You're not going to gain value. The running back position as a whole in the second contract is going to go down. You're treading water. The point is I'm betting production for Taylor, for McCaffrey, for Barkley. I'm not betting for them to play for 3 years or 4 years. I'm betting for a 1 to 2 year window on all those type of guys.
I feel what you're saying. Like the top 3 are the tier of young guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
The next 3 are like same production, older guys.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Facts.
I can hear that argument. I think I view Taylor.
I don't his
view
age.
Taylor as old as Barkley and McCaffrey. Like I don't view him in that same range of.
Well, to be fair, he's not the same age.
He's not.
Yeah.
But you just clump them together. So I don't.
And I do because of they're on their second contract. They're in the next stage of their career.
But I view them up there, or I view Taylor up there, and I'm not opposed to down tiering to Saquon and getting the additional piece later, but I do think it is a tier down to Saquon.
What would you pay if you got Barkley? What would you actually pay to go up to Taylor? Would you add a plus to Barkley to really go up and get Taylor? Obviously, the tier down we've talked about what we'd love to do.
I would be willing.
Would you attach second?
This sounds
a 25
crazy.
second.
Oh, absolutely. I'd do a second.
I would too.
Really?
100%. Yeah, that's easy. That one was easy.
Y'all, for the record, anyone in leagues with me, you send that offer to me, and it's done in a heartbeat.
Barkley in a second for your Taylor?
I'll take Barkley in a second for Jonathan Taylor, because guess what? If they both smash. If either one of them gets hurt, I got that second round pick to get me something.
Yeah.
That's the way I view it. I could be wrong. I mean, I'm not telling you that Taylor isn't younger and that Taylor doesn't have high end range of outcomes, but for me, same tier. So send it. Let's go to the next tier, guys. Though. We kind of have talked.
Let's talk
realistically really great.
Let's talk about Achane and Kyron Williams.
Okay,
those two. I think they're kind of polarizing right now. I'm actually kind of upset with myself that I'm this low on Achane. I'm getting like unreasonably high on Achane.
I'm the only one that interesting.
Yeah.
I have him at 7.
You have him at 7. I have him at 8. But like
I
think I might move him above Etienne.
Really?
Yeah.
I have him.
I'm high. I think
Etienne.
I'm higher on Etienne than you guys.
Well,
I have him
you
at
and
6.
Nick actually have him at the same. Oh, you have him at 6? Okay, you are.
Yeah, I have him over Saquon actually.
Etienne just like he was so good last year for the most part, but I also question like how much work the Jags want to give him. Like I think they wanted Tank to be good, but then like Tank was just probably the worst player in the NFL last year.
The thing is like they keep saying that, but
Yeah.
then the actions don't match
that's
that
fair.
like at all.
They did last year when they drafted Tank relatively
it
early,
didn't
but
work out.
You know
so
what's
bad.
crazy? I literally just Thomas Tipple, shout out to Fantasy Points, was on AMA. You know who had a better efficiency per touch? Was Tank Bigsby.
Then Travis Etienne.
Yeah.
No chance.
On God.
What did
Efficiency per
Tank
touch?
have? Like 4
I mean,
fucking
granted,
touches,
Tank
though?
probably had 15 touches, but
Yeah.
like, my point is, I guess that
That's what
now we should be chasing.
They turned Etienne into like a fucking bell cow. When I'm like, I don't know if he's a.
For what that's worth, 16.6 fantasy points per game. That was 7th in the NFL last year.
I think
He was top 7.
I think
That's not surprising.
The thing that's a little concerning for me, or like where I'm. All right, this is a 25-year-old guy, so
Yep.
Acknowledge that. But then also look at the half of the season before and after the bye.
Yeah. It was the tale of two halves.
That's a little concerning for me where it's like, all right, he's running back 1, 2, 4, and 5 right before the bye. If you look at that part of the season, first 8 weeks, the touches, and he's getting 20 carries a game.
Right. I think Jacksonville knows that's probably not sustainable.
The second half of the season, the snap shares. Like, after the bye, you think you're coming back more fresh. 60% snap share almost the whole time. He had 2 top 12 finishes, which realistically, relative to the field, that's not like insane. He had a lot of mid-seasons.
He wore down for sure at the end of last year, I think, a little bit.
For sure. So I think, and not that you shouldn't be chasing opportunity at the running back position. I wonder if he's, to me, I don't know that I feel the greatest about him in the tier that he's currently at.
He feels to me don't hear what I'm not saying, but similar to how we said Jahmyr Gibbs probably doesn't need a full workload to be efficient. That feels like Travis Etienne.
Etienne's like sneaky, elite, explosive.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
Yes.
I get that.
It's almost like you don't really realize it, but he like routinely pops off 40-yard plays.
Them feet look like they're just so. He's got like that.
He just
Absolutely.
be fucking-
LeBron on steroids with the wide ass feet on running, but it's crazy.
If Etienne's a tough one to get a real read on. It's like you can't be low on him just because like how good he was last year and how many explosive plays he made. But there's always going to be, for me at least, that little twinge of doubt where I'm like, how sustainable is this over the long term?
Yeah.
A little bit of like Rachaad White, like a way better version of Rachaad White.
I can get behind that.
A way better version of Rashad. Okay, I like it.
You know what I mean? Like, definitely the tier above, definitely a better player, definitely have more confidence in Etienne. I just question how long this type of workload lasts.
If Rachaad White was good, then it would be Travis Etienne.
100%.
I mean, I also think, like, too, I wonder I know it doesn't seem like a whole lot, but they bring in Brian Thomas, they bring in Gabe Davis. He had 73 targets, and I think a lot of his
I also got rid of Ridley, though.
They did, but that's fair. My only point is I just don't know if do we think he's guaranteed to stay in this 8? That's a pretty elite target range for a running back. He's got what Gibbs did last year. Is he guaranteed to keep that type of target share?
I'm not worried about
I would say he's
dipping
pretty
that much.
likely. Yeah. Maybe like an 8 target fall off or some shit like that. But I think like him and T-Law have that type of chemistry. I'm not worried about like Tank Bigsby taking pass catching work at all.
I'm not. I just don't know that he's somebody that's guaranteed to stay in the top, 3-5 range as far as target goes at the running back position. I could be wrong.
Their division is probably going to be pretty competitive for them too. They're also going to have to be in a lot of shootouts there with the Colts and with the Texans and stuff.
But then relative to Achane though, like, so are you got them 2 spots different. What do you view, or why the difference of Etienne and Achane for you there? How do you view those two relative to each other?
The difference between Etienne and Achane, I have Etienne 6 and Achane 8, right?
Right, 2 spots different. I'm kind of asking like what you're.
I have them in the same tier of player, but I think it comes down to workload. Like with Etienne, we saw last year. You just talked about the workload that he was getting, and yes, obviously it tailored off a little bit. But talking about guys that probably shouldn't be receiving large workloads, but can do a lot with a little bit of a workload. That's Devon Achane for me, but he feels very risky. I can't.
He feels risky, but I want it. I want that risk in my life.
I can't fully get into it. Like, I don't know why. And I think maybe I'm overvaluing the fact that they give Mostert an extension and then add Jalen Wright as well. Like, maybe I'm overvaluing that just a tiny bit, and that's what's also playing a role into this ranking.
Yeah. I think some of that, though, is like McDaniel learning from Shanahan too, where it's just like you can never have enough running backs because they're just gonna get hurt continuously, and it's like when we find the guy that we like, we're gonna fucking ride them into the ground.
In that scheme, they're literally hit the hole and just go.
Yes,
and they're going to have injuries. So here's the thing. To the point though, that's kind of what I'm saying. Outside of Bijan and Gibbs, and you could maybe argue Breece, isn't the whole fucking position risky? Like, that's my thing. At this point, when I get to this tier, yes, I agree. He is risky.
I feel like
but
we know
I'm willing to shoot my shot now.
Yeah.
If Achane's here, going back, like we're never gonna be able to predict when injuries happen. I feel like we have just scratched the surface of who Achane is as a player. So if I'm not gonna try to predict injuries, I feel fucking incredible about having Achane on my team. You know what I mean? Like, that's really it. Like, we saw the upside, and he has upside that quite literally almost nobody in the fucking NFL can give you. So that's the way I'm looking at it. Like, if you want to factor in like he's smaller and he's more likely to get hurt, do your thing. I mean, he averaged like over 3 touches a game in colleges last year there. He was better than Isaiah Spiller when Spiller was All-American there. Like, I think Achane's put together a resume of just showing us who he is as a running back. You want to factor in the running back, the injuries. Kyron Williams has been hurt. Kenneth Walker's been hurt. Every single player on this fucking list has been hurt a ton in their career. For sure. Right? So it's like, if everyone's going to get hurt, give me the guy that gives you upside like no other.
I think the thing with Achane, and I've sold him in spots too. I've acquired him. I like him. I have plenty of shares. If you have Achane, this is the way I view it. Every time that I know that he's playing that week, he's a fucking auto start, period. Like, he's starting, I am okay if he gives me a 5-point week, knowing that there is a chance that it's a 50-point week. And I just continually play him when he's healthy. If he's hurt, I know that going into the game he's not going to play. He's on my bench. In lineup, I think you can kind of deal with the situation, knowing if you just be heady about it. If he's going to play, you play him. Do not come out. He's coming off a 5-point game and you're worried if he's banged up. You just keep playing him every time he's going to play, and you get those massive spike weeks that, to Nick's point, very few, if any, can offer you. So that's the way I'm viewing it with Achane, and why I have him as the top of the, questionable type tier, risky tier.
Fair.
All right, let's get moving down because we're still inside the top 10. We don't have much different. Like, consensus, we have Kenneth Walker at 10, Pacheco at 11, Jonathan Brooks at 12, James Cook at 13, Rashad White at 14, Josh Jacobs 15, DeAndre Swift 16, Trey Benson 17, Derrick Henry 18, and then Joe Mixon's probably our biggest difference now up to this point. We have consensus 19. I have him at 19. Andrew, you got him at 18. You got him down at 26. Now, I've changed my tune a little bit on Joe Mixon, and I've risen him up my board. At this point in the Dynasty rankings, I don't know that I feel confident that any name on this list is going to give you more than one more good year of fantasy production. And like, Joe Mixon is going to get every opportunity to do that this year. They got nothing else in that backfield. They just showed us that they have no interest in giving Dameon Pierce the ball. So I feel like Mixon's going to,
he should go nuts.
He's gonna do exactly what he's been doing in Cincinnati for the last 6 years. Is that be a good, efficient back? No. But is it 10 goal line scores and 250 carries? Probably.
And last year it was 15.7 fantasy points per game.
Yeah. So like, at the end of the day, I'm like, his floor is really safe, and I don't feel comfortable that like any of the dudes after him are gonna last an extra year after this year. Same thing with Joe Mixon though.
To me, Mixon's in a good offense. The situation's good. To your point, I think. Real quick before we do the Mixon thing, I just wanted to touch on Brooks and Benson before we go to this point, because the reason I want to say that is they're very different than almost everybody once you get past, whatever you want to call it, Kyron, Pacheco area, because they're rookies and we don't know what to expect. So we're pretty much the same on them. Do you think there's any chance that they're being overvalued just because of youth, or do you think rookies? This is appropriate? Yeah.
No, it's probably way super inappropriate. Like, they're definitely being overvalued, especially Trey Benson, a 3rd-round pick. Brooks, I get it. First running back picked off the board. Also, I think most people thought of him as the most talented guy, so he's got the combination of both.
Right.
I don't hate it. Like, I have him up at 13, but I do see, like, he could have a really poor year this year.
And a fairly empty depth chart.
Right. But I also think it's similar to the conversation we had last episode about, like, Bo Nix. Is I almost feel like Brooks's value is kind of insulated in the fact that I don't know that we're expecting much out of Brooks this year. We're like, oh, you know what? There's like Chuba, Miles Sanders. He's also coming back from the ACL. It's a bad offense. So when he rushes for 600 yards and has 150 receiving yards, fine. That's what we expected. This year is his year. And I won't hold that against him because he's 20 years old. He's going to be barely a year removed from the ACL once the season gets going. Like, I think he needs another year, but I also think his value is kind of insulated there. So I don't have a problem with Brooks. Trey Benson, I kind of feel like we're jumping the gun here.
We are.
Sure. Oh, well, 100%. It's the thing. The Trey Benson thing is, okay, this offense we expect to take a big step forward. We've seen, actually, though, the reason you're chasing it, James Conner, whether you loved him or hated him or whatever, he's been great, actually, in this offense that we expect to be a better offense. So if Trey Benson can actually take the reins at the young age, he can go higher than this. It's just
it's a pretty big projection for someone that, like, 3rd-round capital is cool, but it's really not, like, it's not.
We expect the handing of the torch, but it just I hate to be the guy to rain on the parade. It's just not a lock. It's not a lock. That's the problem with it in this range.
But
I definitely get the swing.
Yeah,
it's
I was going to say
I mean, we all have him at 17, so like.
I just wanted to acknowledge those two are different in the rookie range because we don't have I think I have Marshawn Lloyd somewhat close, but he's obviously not in our top 30 here. Point is, it's a big fall off for the next rookies. But then we get to this range, and the reason I have you could say I have Mixon at 26. I have a very big tier of running backs at this spot. To the point you made, yes, for sure. In a 1 year sprint, Joe Mixon in a good offense, could he be better than Najee Harris, Javonte Williams, David Montgomery, Alvin Kamara, Zamir White? Absolutely. To me, though, he's been inefficient. There's a lot of guys also. It wouldn't surprise me with Javonte Williams actually coming back from the injury fully healthy a year removed from the injury that
I kind of hate what we're hearing out of Denver, though. Like, I feel like Sean Payton does not like Javonte.
I'm getting so low on Javonte.
Yeah, he's kind of – I was really high going into the offseason. I was like, Javonte's going to bounce back this year. And, like, the more I look into it, the more nervous I think I'm getting.
Well, I mean, I got him at running back 19. I'm not like I'm not telling you go buy Javonte. My point is that, to me, Javonte Williams, range of outcomes, Joe Mixon, they're really not that different. Sure, Joe Mixon, if you want to say, is a better 1 year sprint, I'm not going to really fight you. I have him in the same tier. I have a jumbled tier. So my 26 versus your 18 sounds crazy, but I really don't view once we get past Derrick Henry. Let's put it like this. I think Derrick Henry to me is where there's a clear tier break, and then the rest of these guys, I'm not going to fight you really hard. There's a lot of the same type of bets in my opinion.
I have Henry under. Yeah, I have Henry under Mixon.
The reason I feel more confident that we're getting at least one more good year of production out of Mixon than we are Javonte Williams. I'm actually not confident that we get more than like 700 rushing yards and 5 to 6 touchdowns out of Javonte, and that's almost useless. Whereas like Joe Mixon, I feel like he's a good bet to at least get like 15 goal line opportunities. I'm like, will he turn it into 10 touchdowns? I feel way more confident about that. So with Javonte, sure, you get the youth kind of sprinkled in, so that's a little bit, pushing that end of the spectrum. But like this Denver offense, I don't know if Javonte can be projected. I don't know what his over-under is for total touchdowns in Vegas right now. I can't imagine it's much higher than like 5.5.
Here's a guy in one of my leagues. He's probably going to watch this video. And he has been offering me Javonte plus to tier up into my Rashad White and my Kenneth Walkers and things like that. I don't know what he could possibly offer me to make me press accept.
Yeah.
It's probably nothing reasonable. No. I cannot get down into Javonte Williams.
My ranking of him is not in any way supposed to be reflective of go buy Javonte Williams. It's more so, I think, again, with this offense in Denver, I agree the touchdowns probably aren't there. I don't project it to be good, but the last time we saw Javonte healthy right away with the start of the season, he got like, what was it, almost 10 catches or something from Russ. I could see Bo Nix, who's a very big check down guy, checking the shit out of the ball down to Javonte Williams.
I don't even know if Javonte's a pass catcher there with Jaleel. Like, Sean Payton like really gives me bad vibes, dude.
I think the best strategy with that backfield is to take the cheapest of the running backs and just let that be the guy on your roster.
Well, definitely not Samaje. But if Jaleel's cheap enough, I'll go with
Jaleel,
him.
I'll take exposure to all of them.
Estime, I forgot they fucking drafted him too.
One of those guys.
I'll take exposure to all of them.
You take who?
I'll take some exposure to all of them.
And Blake Watson's been getting a lot of buzz in camp too. They've been talking about him.
Yeah, you need to not do that.
Why?
You got to not do that.
Why?
You got to stop with that.
I kind of just keep going.
Getting a lot of talk in camp.
Talk about Blake Watson.
Why?
I don't know. It's insane.
Sean Payton said he reminded him of Alvin Kamara.
I mean, the thing about Javonte's to me, a really good pass blocker. So I'm not actually worried about him not being able to get pass catching opportunities. But again, if Sean Payton fades him, misery will be on my end. But again, Javonte Williams all the way down to like Brian Robinson Jr. To me, the range of outcomes in the value of the players and flippability all extremely similar.
Yeah, no, I feel that. So we have Javonte overall. Well, we got Derrick Henry 18, Joe Mixon 19, consensus Najee Harris at 20, Javonte at 21, Montgomery at 22, Kamara 23, and then to wrap up our top 24, we got Zamir White. Is there anyone within that top 24, and maybe one other player kind of sitting down low there that we think we want to run into?
I got Blake Corum at 24. You guys have him at 27 and 28.
I have Ramondre at 24.
It's not, again, I'm not going to make massive cases, but to me, Blake Corum, we saw that Kyron was really good. I don't want to, people were big mad about me talking about Kyron Williams. I think Blake Corum is a very efficient running back that's similar to Kyron Williams and could very well end up getting good opportunities in an offense that if Matt Stafford's healthy, it's better offense than people want to give it credit for as far as fantasy points.
I like Corum a lot. But ironically, I think I'm the lowest on this list, right? I'm 28 or 26. Where am I?
You have him at 28 and Nick's at 27. We're not like super far off.
I mean, for a guy that had third round capital with a clear like workhorse in front of him, I feel like we're in the right range.
I think the only other guy that we should talk about is there is a 9-spot difference between Adam and both of us, Nick, on Aaron Jones.
Well,
we have him at
him
30.
and Tyjae. Me and Adam are basically flipped on Tyjae being a 9-spot difference and Aaron Jones being a 9-spot difference.
So those are probably the two guys we should talk about.
Actually, Aaron Jones would have been a great one to bring up relative to Joe Mixon. To me, kind of same picture.
I can't get down with that.
All right, so you're the Vikings fan. Lay it out for us how you see this offense playing out.
I think the reason why I'm so down is because I don't really know how I see this rushing offense playing out, especially now that J.J. McCarthy is in the mix. Like, this also feels like it's going to be one of those years where there's a good chance that Darnold is playing half of the season. There's a good chance that when they do switch over to J.J. McCarthy, it's probably after a bye, and then we're playing in games that are most likely going to be trailing, which I guess can help Aaron Jones in a pass-catching aspect, but it just feels like this is not the best recipe for Aaron Jones. And then I look at, I have it in my notes here on my thing, I look at what he was able to do last year. He's 29 and a half years old. He averaged 12 fantasy points per game last year, which was 26th in the NFL. And
Raw stats, I don't know that tells the picture, like, because he did get hurt, which maybe speaks to his age. He had a great week 1, got hurt, really didn't get healthy until the end of the year where he exploded again. So maybe he still got it, maybe he doesn't. Do you think there's more likely a sort of like backfield committee there than people are giving it credit for?
Definitely.
Okay.
I just did a video on my channel where I talked about handcuffs in fantasy football that cannot be ignored because of how much I think that they're going to be utilized. And Ty Chandler makes the list. Like, Ty Chandler is a guy that I think is going to be utilized more than people think. And he would be a handcuff that I am targeting in any draft this year.
Sure. I got no problem rostering Ty Chandler. I got no problem handcuffing, and I think that's a perfect use of the word. He's a handcuff because Aaron Jones, to me, you saw some injury last year. Again, any running back on this list I think could deal with it. But for a guy that is 29 and a half years old, Andrew, 127, 120, 111 to finish out the season on 50-something% of snaps most of those weeks. So give me the 1A in this Minnesota offense, which I think here's the thing. Is it as good as Green Bay? Not necessarily, but I think especially with J.J. McCarthy or Darnold, whoever you throw out there, they might be wanting to lean on the run a little bit, get some of, a guy like Aaron Jones some touches. And, again, interdivision, they know that this is a talented kid. Yeah. He's not a kid anymore, I guess. But
they might. I'm really worried about, I think, the efficiency of that run game. It doesn't feel like it's going to be – I'm worried about it. I also I'm not –
You feel like he's going to have to make his money through the air.
He's going to have to make
He's going to have to put up like 400, 500
and I'm
receiving
also
yards
not
to really
confident. I feel like for a fan of the team, I'm actually pretty realistic about my expectations each year on what's going to happen. I'm not optimistic about this season.
No, I mean, your division's fucking insane.
It sounds horrible to say this out loud as a fan, but like we might be a bottom 5 NFL team this year.
I'd agree with that.
And if that is the case, we are going to be trailing in almost every single game. I think we might be a bottom 5 team in the NFL.
I mean, I think you walk away from that division with maybe one divisional win.
And our defense is not great. It's a work in progress right now. Obviously, added Dallas Turner. We have some other guys that we brought in, but like they're not close to being complete here.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this much.
It just worries me. Like you can't lean on a run game when you're down by that many points every week.
If the Vikings are a bottom 5 team and the offense is to that problematic, when you have a guy like J.J. McCarthy being valued where he's at, and you have, this is against the running back list, but a guy like him, which is going in with expectations, if they're a bottom 5 team, his value is going to be going down.
Who?
Probably will.
J.J. McCarthy's.
Probably will.
I get it. I don't think it's going to, I think that's probably a very like bottom of the barrel
But
outcome,
I did say,
or range of outcomes.
I did recently put out a tweet where I said like the absolute best plan of action from a fan's perspective of mine for the Vikings this year is that J.J. McCarthy doesn't take a snap for the Vikings until like week 10.
Okay.
Like after our bye, because the start of our schedule is horrible. Like we have so many tough teams that we play at the beginning of the year. And it's almost like I would rather us throw Sam Darnold in there, let him take the beating, we lose those games, whatever. And then after the bye, you say, let's see what the kid has, J.J. McCarthy, throw him in there and let's see what happens. But that is the best case scenario. And I think at that point, though, if JJ's coming in at week 10, we're not going to push him down the board too much because the damage already done under Darnold.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's a lot more uncertainty in that backfield and just what that team is going to be. That Aaron Jones makes me a little bit like, I think the range of outcomes is high, and banking on a high range of outcomes guy that is 29 years old feels risky.
I'm nervy.
Let's go up to Tyjae Spears. I got him at 21, the highest. You have him at 26, and then Adam, you got him all the way down at 30. This is just a subjective take. I just think Tyjae Spears is a much better player than Tony Pollard, and I think by the end of this year, Tyjae is going to be the one that has a 60% snap share. Tyjae was like eating into Derrick Henry's workload, which was like a near impossible task for the last half decade. He's explosive. He's a good pass catcher. This is a completely new offense. I think it's going to lean on the pass catching ability of their running back. So I think that like Tyjae's very young, and I feel better about his talent than I do a lot of the players on the list that are getting up there in age.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this ranking is more reflective of I like Tyjae Spears, the talent. I just feel like the presence of Tony Pollard is going to cap him being the guy that I want to bet on with everybody currently being healthy as one to break into the mold of guys. I think outside of like Corum, who obviously you have Kyron Williams there, everybody else here I feel a lot more confident in the workload that I can project from them. So right now when everyone's healthy, that's why I have him at this spot.
So you have Tyjae at 30 and then Pollard at 31. If you already have Spears ahead of him in Dynasty, don't you feel like that gap should already be higher? Because you're already saying basically by this time next year, the gap's going to be even bigger because you already have Spears ahead.
Well, so what I'm basically saying is at this point for these guys at the running back position where I don't view them as special talents, like that ranking's actually reflective of me saying it's the same picture, and I don't value the youth difference because I'm not really valuing anything more than 2 years out from this point. Is really kind of why I'm saying that. I just to the point, I think what you're saying actually makes sense, and I don't want to pay for the younger version. I don't want to pay market value for the younger version of the same picture. That's the reason I say that.
Isn't it crazy that there was a point in the offseason this year where we had Tyjae Spears, or the community had Tyjae Spears, I say we
15.
as the community, up where Pacheco, James Cook, Rashad White were.
But that speaks to what Nick's saying, though. I think the talent, if he was going to be have the backfield to himself, and this offense we project to take a step forward with the new coaching staff, I couldn't really knock it in the ranks of Swift.
We had him right in
the difference is
that
if he's splitting with Pollard, to me, that's why I have it in my ranking where I do. It's not. I don't think Tyjae's not talented. I don't love the situation.
Yeah, it's crazy. Honestly, at the time, I had tried to sell at that price. I couldn't make anything happen, but whatever.
Those are the guys, these younger guys where I feel like they have upside and talent. These are the guys I'm peppering in that. Like when we're doing the Dynasty startup mock drafts, like Tyjae's, he's like a 9th round pick. And I'm like, all right, cool. Give me that guy over, I don't know, the old guys that I don't feel like are on the incline anymore. Where I feel like Tyjae, very little chance that if he's being valued as a 25, 28, whatever, I just don't see his value dropping from this year to next year. If anything, I feel like it goes up. So I'm like, give me that 9th round value. Maybe he's a 7th round starter pick next year. Maybe he hits and he's fucking whatever it is.
I think actually to that point, if you wanted to put him at where you have him, like
21 maybe is a little spicy, but
no, but I mean, it's to me, it's a pick your flavor. Like it's a lot of shooting shots on. For example, if Tyjae Spears ends up taking the backfield from Pollard or Pollard got hurt, my ranking would jump tremendously from Tyjae Spears. Right now, I can't really project with any type of confidence higher than this. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, Dan.
All right, big girls.
Running back rankings in the books. We're about to move on to the wide receivers. So, again, make sure you are subscribed if you just want to not fucking hear us yap and get the rankings. They are up on BDGE.co. Become a big dog member, and we'll see y'all next time.
Love y'all.
Moochies.